Shut up and sit down.
Greetings, fellow travelers. Oblix here, and welcome to Mekanism 10 in Minecraft 1.16.1. Oh, check out all that new Nether goodness. Yeah. So, you guys know that have been with me for a while that Mekanism is one of my absolute favorite all-time mods. And it was just now updated from version 9 to version 10. As you watch this video, as the day this video is released is the day that it will be coming out, and you will be able to play Mekanism 10. And I'm here to show you all the wonderful things that have changed since version 9. Now, first thing, it's the little things. Little things that I love so much. You know how we have all the different tiers of machines? Well, nowadays, they actually change the color of the text for all the machines, and that is so super handy. Such a tiny little thing. You know, the basic ones are green, the advanced ones are red. It's such a tiny little thing, but it really makes a huge difference, and I am super excited to see that. Now, that is the least of the changes we're going to see today. So all the ore generation, you know, the old school ores are still here, copper, tin, and osmium, but we have 3 new ores added to the ore generation within the world. So the new hotness is going to be uranium, and it's quite literally the new hotness. We got fluorite and lead you will be able to find in your world. Now, fluorite does to me look a lot like the osmium, but again, I am colorblind, so maybe that's just me. But they do look very similar to my eyeballs. So you will be able to find these new materials in your world, and you will be able to make use of them. One of the other new things they've added is this block right here, the nutritional liquefier. We'll get back to this stuff here in a little bit. The nutritional liquefier will take all the Minecraft foods for the most part and turn them into nutritional paste. Yep. It's going to gooify the food, man. Now, what I did is I took every piece of food on this table right here on the Minecraft foodstuffs, you know, everything from honey to berries, sweet berries to mushroom stews and beetroot soups and rabbit stews and dried kelp, everything in here, put it in this chest. Everything processed except cake. So every item on this page, including pufferfish and tropical fish, things you wouldn't think, spider eyes, poison potatoes, all of them can be processed in this machine right here to make nutritional paste. And you can eat nutritional paste. The only thing that can't be processed is cake. Now, there is a canteen that you can craft and fill up with the nutritional paste. You get a little hungry, you can take a little nibble out of that canteen, and it will use up that bar. So you can carry around quite a bit of it with you, and it's pretty handy. And it can be used for something else a little bit later, I will show you. The next thing is we've added a tier between fusion reactors and all your base level generators. We now have fission reactors, and that's one sitting right there. However, these guys, because they use uranium, do produce radiation, and you have to be careful of it because it will hurt you. So we have some blocks to help you find out if you're in an area that is radioactive or if you've been exposed to it. So we've got a Geiger counter and we've got a dosimeter. Now, the Geiger counter will tell you if you're in an area that is radioactive. We are currently not in an area of any radiation. Hallelujah. The dosimeter will tell you if you've been irradiated. And I have, so that's, you know, I've been playing a little bit. It's fine. But those will, of course, have negative buffs on you. We can go ahead and get rid of that as well. But you're going to want to keep those handy as you're working with these fission reactors. Now, the fission reactor, this is a fission reactor setup right here. It is a multi-block structure, and you can hear it making that humming sound. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that down, but I wanted you to hear what it sounded like. And the other sound you're hearing is this other new block called the isotopic centrifuge. So you can hear it kind of makes almost a grinding sound. But let me go ahead and turn these volumes down. Okay, just so I don't have to talk so loud so you can hear me. Now, in order to feed this fission reactor, you're going to need some fissile material. In order to make that, you're going to need uranium. You're going to put uranium into a smelter and produce the ingots. Now, you can go through ore duplication with this just like you can with all the other ores. So you could have in front of this a whole ore duplication setup. But you want to get down to the ingots. Once you have the ingots, you want to run them through an enrichment chamber and get some yellow cake uranium. You're going to run them in here and get some uranium oxide. This is all, the machines are old, but the material in them is new. You're going to combine that uranium oxide with some hydrofluoric acid, and you're going to get uranium hexafluoride. That is going to go into this new machine, the isotopic centrifuge, and it's going to turn that uranium hexafluoride into fissile fuel. The fissile fuel then gets used inside the fission reactor. If I open it up, you can see we're throwing in some water. We're using that as our coolant. We got the fissile material in here, the fissile fuel, and it is creating fission and making heat, basically. We are then taking that heat and running it into a turbine to produce steam. Or we're taking the steam and producing power with it. So this is kind of the new mid-tier, right? So we had the gas burning generators and the windmills and the solar panels, and those are all still in the pack. But this sits in a nice spot between the fusion reactor, which is big power, and those, the gas burning generators. It's a nice little middle road. And these, like I said, they are multi-block structures. They do follow traditional Mekanism multi-block structures, so you can make them up to, 17 or 18 by 18 wide. You can make them quite large. Now, they do produce nuclear waste, as you would expect using uranium. And you do have to dispose of it carefully. If you do not, you will negatively affect your world. To do that, you want to use this radioactive waste barrel. So you just pipe out from the fission and reactor and pipe it into here. Now, this is material that is used towards some late game stuff, so you are going to want to get some of this stuff. Now, one of the other things that has changed that has to do with fission reactors, here's another one. I've got where you can see into it a little bit easier. You can see the rods and things of that nature running. The boiler has changed. This is a boiler. Over here we're using water to cool it. Over here we're actually using sodium to cool it. And then we're using the boiler to cool that sodium down. So we're putting in the superheated sodium, we're getting out just the sodium. And it is coming back into here and keeping it all nice and cool. So the boiler did get an update in order to allow it to do that. It used to just take in water. Now, a lot of our old friends are still here, like the induction matrix, the turbine. Those things really haven't gone through any changes on those. Now, we've added a ton of new plastic blocks. For those that don't know, Mekanism has a bunch of plastic, and this is a mix of some of the old and some of the new. Like these road blocks are old blocks. These plastic blocks are old blocks that I'm looking at right now. These glow plastics, I think these are old as well. I can't remember off that one. The clear blocks are all new. The glowing bricks, or glowing stairs, these all light up at night. So these are all new. The transparent stairs, the transparent blocks, the transparent half slabs, these are all new. Of course, you have your fences and your gates as well. Whoa, you just zipped across. These are all older as well, and you do speed up on certain plastics as you run across them. So I do want to show you, highlight. I don't think I've ever actually highlighted in video that plastic is a thing in Mekanism, but it definitely is, and it's highly useful. Especially, I really like these glowing ones. They don't glow as bright as, say, glowstone, but they're pretty excellent for hiding in your world. You put a green one under the ground with some leaves on it, it's going to disappear a lot better than a piece of glowstone will. So that is one thing. Armor has been around with Mekanism for a long time. We've had the bronze, the lapis, the osmium, the refined glowstone, refined obsidian, and steel. And you may often see like skeletons coming at you wearing some of the refined glowstone. That's probably where you see it the most. What they did add in version 10 is shields to match all of the different armors. So you've got all of these different shields that you can now use, which actually have some pretty cool looking textures on the front of them. So each one's a little bit different, which I think is really cool. Nice little feature. So the lapis actually looks like lapis. The osmium's got a kind of a cool little look to it. Refined glowstone, refined obsidian, steel. They all have just a slightly different look, which I think is really nice. So addition of new shields. So in addition to shields, they've added a netherite paxel, which is now the top tier paxel of the list. Then, Mekanism's always been kind of lacking in a late game armor, but lacking no more. And let me tell you, this is one of the most bad A looking armors I have ever seen. This thing is seriously baller. It's just from the looks perspective. And I love how they implemented it, because they implemented it in a very, very Mekanism way. So you build all the different, the different pieces. So I've got, the 4 pieces here, the helmet, the chest plate, the pants, and the boots. And then to do the upgrades, just like you would with Mekanism machines, you're going to build these different units, and then you're going to apply them inside this new modification station. So if you open it up and you put your helmet here, now all the armor I've got on is actually fully upgraded, so it's got every piece of upgrade it can have. But to do a new upgrade, you simply put it right here, and it'll apply it just like in a Mekanism machine. If you were adding, energies, or you were adding the sound mufflers, things like that. So if I click on energy unit, I can see what it has. There's 8 of them in there. I've got 8 of 8 installed. I can remove one of them. Now I've got 7 of 7. I can put it back in, just put it right there, and it adds it right back in, exactly like this machine. So super, super cool. So for the helmet, the upgrade options are electrolytic breathing, which allows you to breathe underwater, and will fill your jetpack with hydrogen. Yes, there is a jetpack. Inhalation purification that prevents poison. So nutritional injection unit. That is that slop slurry mess over here. The nutritional, what is it called? Nutritional something or other. Nutritional paste. That is what that is used for. You put it in your helmet. If we look at my helmet, it says stored nutritional paste is 16 buckets. So, we're just storing that slop in our helmet, and it is feeding us as we need it, which is pretty darn awesome. Then you've got your vision enhancement unit. If I hit the key, you can see it does switch into kind of a funky night vision. And then we have the solar recharge unit, which will just refill your armor with power via sunlight. The energy unit increases the maximum energy capacity. So this helmet here has not been upgraded. You can see it holds 6.4 million FE, but the one in my inventory has been fully upgraded, and you can see it holds 1.6 billion FE. So it is considerably more. And then the last one is the radiation shielding. Remember we talked about these guys produce radiation, the fission reactors? Yep, you're going to want that. For the chest, you can get a jetpack, which is basically just flight. So I'm not in creative, and you can see I've got flight. Now I am taking radiation damage, even though I have radiation, because yeah, I got poisoned pretty good. But you can see we have full jetpack flight. And it runs off hydrogen, which is stored in your chest plate, just like the regular Mekanism jetpack would have. And the regular jetpack is still in the pack. And of course you have all the regular modes that you would have. Next up is the gravitational module, which allows you to use antimatter to defy gravity. And we'll talk about antimatter in a minute when we get back over there. You've got another energy unit, which just increases the amount of energy, just like it did on the helmet. And you got some more radiation shielding. For your legs, you've got radiation shielding energy units and the locomotive boosting, which allows you to sprint and jump better. Boots, you get shielding, energy units, magnetic attraction, which allows you to draw things towards you. This is something Mekanism's been missing for quite some time. Basically what this allows is when you break blocks, it will suck those blocks towards you, which is super handy when you're mining. Then you have the hydraulic propulsion unit, which allows the user to both step and jump higher. Yeah, then we have a new tool, and I haven't quite figured out where it fits in relation to the atomic disassembler. It's called the Meka-tool, and it obviously goes with the armor. It's got some pretty nice upgrades, so you can vein mine with it, you can farm with it, teleport. It's got energy upgrades, silk touch, and attack amplification, so you can hit harder with it, and then increase your digging speed. Like I said, to me it feels very similar to an atomic disassembler, but it's not. So you can make path blocks. You can make a path block and then turn it into farmland. You can strip logs with it. You can dig with it, and you'll see the magnetic boots doing their job, pulling the items towards us. So, and again, we're going to get away from the radiation. So it is a very nice tool. Like I said, a lot of its features and functions are very similar to those of the atomic disassembler. It does feel kind of a different niche, but it's kind of along that same vein. But it looks great with the armor. I mean, check that out. Totally awesome. Now, one of the other updates they did is they've altered teleporters so that they can work in different orientations. They used to have to be in this orientation here, and you can see we've teleported well across the map. This is the normal mode, but you can now work with them laying on their sides. For example, I've got one here that'll teleport us over there, and we're just going to fall out of the sky. That's an option. In the past, the teleport module or teleport block had to be at the bottom. Now it can be, at the top, and we can of course teleport into the Nether if we want to. Now I do have these guys anchored so that that still exists, is still a thing, so we can basically chunk load the blocks. So now let's talk about antimatter. Now this is where you're going to need that radioactive waste that you're collecting in that barrel from your fission reactor. And what you're going to do is you're going to send that into your solar neutron activator, so it now has a new function as well. So it's in turn going to produce polonium. Now that polonium you want to shove inside this guy, which is by far the coolest new multi-block that is in Mekanism, because just check that out, it's super awesome. This guy is called the Supercritical Phase Shifter Multi-block. So supercritical phase, It's hard to say all this. Supercritical phase shifter. There you go. I'll say that 10 times fast. It is listed as SPS in JEI if you're hunting for it, so just do SPS, the different blocks. And it is a very cool looking machine. Now, the lightning animation you get is directly correlated to the amount of power you're feeding in it. So if you're feeding in less power, you're going to get less lightning. There we go. Sorry, had a plane flying overhead. So what this does is turns the polonium into antimatter in its gaseous state. So it's just taking lots of power and turning that polonium into antimatter. I did turn the power down, which is why you see much less lightning, so it's not producing as fast, so we can actually read what it says here for those that want to do that. Now that antimatter, you can do two different things with it. One, you can send it into a chemical crystallizer like we're doing here, and when it has enough, it's actually going to turn it into these, which are these antimatter pellets. Now these are used in crafting recipes for other things. Or you can send it over here to a new machine called the Antitropic Nucleosynthesizer. And when you feed it a bunch of power and some gaseous antimatter, and then put a block in, very specific blocks. So when you put in wool along with the antimatter and a whole bunch of power, it's going to convert the wool into another material. So if I put in light gray wool, it's going to become a block of quartz. If I put in red wool, it's going to become redstone. So basically it's just a matter converter, but a pretty cool looking one, and a way to use and get rid of that nuclear waste that you have over there so it doesn't wreck your world. So one of the other new items is the quantum item orchestration, and that is this series of blocks right here. You have kind of this base unit, which is your QIO drive array. And inside this drive array, you have these drives, and there's different capacities of drives. So this is the lowest, which holds 16,000 items, or 128 types. You've got the hyperdense. You've got the time dilating, which is we're up to 1 million items of 1,000 different types. And then you've got the supermassive, which is 16 billion items, 8,000 types. And of course, you can have multiple of those inside of here. These work on frequencies just like most other Mekanism things do. Quantum entangleporters, teleporters, that kind of thing. You set them to a channel, either public or private, and then you get yourself a screen like this guy here, this dashboard. You connect that dashboard to that same frequency, and then you have access to insert or remove items from the hard drives. Now there is, you notice, no power involved. These are not early game machines. These are very late game machines. Huge amount of bulk item storage, but like I said, very late game, very heavy on the crafting cost. So you can see it handles both stacked and non-stackable items, and it will still stack them, much like refined storage or applied energistics will. You've got importers and exporters. So if we take some, let's say some granite, some andesite, diorite, and cobblestone, and throw them all in here, you will see they get sucked into the system. However, look at the cobblestone. We got 384 over here and no cobblestone in the system, but we do have the andesite, diorite, and granite. So what has happened is, because we have this exporter, it's actually removing all the cobblestone we put into the system and pulling here. So the importer is taking everything in this chest, moving it into the drives. The exporter is grabbing the cobblestone out of the drives and pulling it into this basic bin. And we can do all that with item filters. So these importers and exporters both have item filters on them. I've got no filter on the importer, so it'll just take everything we shove in here. But I have the cobblestone item filter here on the exporter. So we're at 384 now. If I drop in another 64, you'll see they're instantly over here, and we're at 448. So it is a really handy way to do storage, especially bulk deep storage. Now these dashboards don't have to go vertical on the wall. They can go horizontal on the floor. They can go horizontal on the ceiling. You can pretty much put them wherever. And there is a wireless variant. So if we look at QIO, we see we have a portable QIO dashboard. All we have to do is bind it to ourselves. So we now own this item, and we select the frequency, hit set. Now we right click it and we have access to everything that's inside the drives. I wish this guy would go away. So everything inside of here. You will not see the stuff that has been exported to somewhere else because they are not, this is no longer a part of the system, but you will see everything that's inside of here. Now let's check and make sure that it works in other dimensions. And yes, it does. Like I said, very late game, very expensive, but very cool. And no power requirements whatsoever. The only thing it's really missing is a crafting grid. So, there is no JEI enabled crafting grid where you can say, make me one of these and, click the plus and it pulls the items into it. You're going to have to pull the items out and bring it into the floor. Maybe they'll have that in the future. I don't know, but it's definitely not there at the moment. Now, we were talking about radiation, and I want to show you what happens when you are not very responsible with your fission reactor. So even in creative, I can release radiation. So we've got some radiation here in this nuclear waste repository, the radioactive waste barrel. If I just break that, you see all these green particles that are now affecting the world around us? That is radiation. And you can see you can go a long way away from where you did that damage, and it is still affecting the world. There, we just ran out of range. See how far away we had to get for it not to be hurting us or the environment. And like I said, this negative buff will actually hurt you, based on how much radiation you take in. Now I'm here in the new 1.16 Nether to show you that you can build these fission reactors significantly larger. This is a 17 by 17 by 17. It is massive. And if we fire this bad boy up, you see all the fuel rods light up, and it is producing all manner of heats. Now this one we are cooling with sodium, so it does cool quite a bit better. But I've got no voids on this, so it would eventually explode. And scram is just the way to turn it off. Now to show you that you can actually explode these things, I've set one up over here that we will explode. So this is the tiniest one you can make. It is a 3 by 3 by 4, and you've got one fuel rod and one control, and then I'm just feeding it fuel and nothing else. So I'm going to fire it up, and it's going to, the temperature is going to rise off the chart because I have no coolant in here, and it's eventually going to start taking damage. Now, when it takes enough damage, it's going to start hurting you in the environment, and then it is going to eventually explode and do quite a bit of damage. Now keep in mind, this is the smallest reactor we can make. So imagine what Big Bertha over there would do if she blew up. So I love these new interfaces they've added with the real-time graphs. And there's our explosion. Quite a bit of destruction. And again, that's the smallest reactor you can have. That's much bigger than a charge creeper. So imagine that big old 17 by 17 over there, what it would do. So something else that has changed relates specifically to the configurator. They've added radial menus. So there's a specific key you can hold down and you can change it in your control settings. And you can define here if you want to deal with, you want to infuse items or gases or fluids. You can pick whatever you need to here. And that will set your configurator to the correct setting. Another thing they've done is made all sides of Mekanism machines accessible. Even the ones that weren't before are now accessible on all sides. And one feature for those that have really been asking for it, you can now input and output from the same side. So you can have one side that is now purple, a new color for us, for side configuration that is both input and output. So that's a rough overview of all the changes for Mekanism 10. Now, I've only been playing with it for a few hours, so don't take me for gospel that I know everything there is to know. Like I said, a lot of things have changed. It is brand new in a lot of areas, especially with the fission reactors, those things, the antimatter, all that stuff. So, as we learn more, we'll be able to do more. This is just what I was able to glean in a couple of hours playing with this new version. So let me know what you think about it. Put your comments in the down yonder and tell me what you think. I'm super stoked. I think they've done a fantastic job. The armor is amazing. The new machines are super cool. It's going to add a new lot of dynamic to the mod. And I can't wait to get it into a pack and start playing with it. I think I will be starting a new series probably pretty soon that's going to have it in it because, like I said, I'm really excited to get in there and really cut my teeth on it and see what's going to be what with it. But that's going to do it for this Mekanism 10 overview. Sure do appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me as always, and until next time, y'all get out there, make some noise. See ya.